Okay, so moving into the next part of the list, you can see it says medial view of sagittal section. So in other words, what we're going to be looking at here is this part of our brain that is kind of a cross section going straight down. And what we're looking at is the inside of the brain, but a sagittal section where we cut right down the middle. Now, these structures that we need to know are located within the brain, and a lot of our brain models, you're going to see this view. If we were in the lab, you would see that the diagrams all are of this view of the brain. So just to quickly review, remember that this area is our cerebrum. So this entire area is the cerebrum. Then remember, we've got our cerebellum. Our brain stem is right here. Now, the brain stem consists of three parts. This area at the top of the brain stem, right here, is called the midbrain. Then you have the big lump, that's the pons. And then you have a smaller lump at the bottom, that's the medulla oblongata. Now, this diagram doesn't show it, but the medulla oblongata ends, and then down here at the bottom, this brainstem will turn into the spinal cord. So you need to know the pons, the midbrain, and the medulla oblongata. So the midbrain is the top, the pons is the lump, the lower lump is the medulla oblongata. Make sure that you don't just call it the medulla, because the word medulla just means middle. Like your kidney has a medulla, your adrenal glands have a medulla. The brain, the center of the brain, is typically referred to as the medulla. This is the medulla oblongata, so you want to make sure you say oblongata. Okay, so this is our medulla oblongata. This is our pons. This is our midbrain. Now, if you look at the list, it says that our cerebrum, under medial view, it says our cerebrum is made up of a corpus callosum and the fornix. So we talked about the cortex's lobes. Inside the brain, we have this structure right here. It kind of looks like an earlobe. That earlobe is called the corpus callosum. So this is the corpus callosum, and it's part of the cerebrum. This is part of the cerebrum, and it's a connector from the right hemisphere to the left hemisphere. So it's connecting the left side to the right side of the brain, and hanging off of it is this structure kind of in the middle right here. This structure in the middle is called the fornix. The fornix is part of a system in your brain called the limbic system. We'll talk about this in lecture, but it is a structure that makes up this central area called the diencephalon. So that's our next thing. This diencephalon is the central area of our brain. And remember from my first video that I told you it's the primordial brain. So this region of your brain is going to be your instinctual survival part of your brain. So this is the part of your brain that's got the hypothalamus, that's the center of homeostasis. It's the part of your brain that's going to be saying that you're hot, you're cold, you're tired, you're hungry, survival things, right? So you want to maintain homeostasis with your diencephalon. So your diencephalon is going to be controlling all of those homeostatic processes. So it's what signals when you're hungry, when you're thirsty. I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm cold, I'm hot, I want sex, I need shelter. All of these kind of things are processed in the diencephalon. So this entire region right here, the central part of our brain, above the midbrain and below the corpus callosum, all of this area is our diencephalon. All right, so if you look at the diencephalon, our list breaks it into two parts, the thalamus and the hypothalamus. The thalamus is this region right here, and you can easily find it because of this center. See that little central oval? That little central oval is called the intermediate mass, and it's at the middle of this thalamus. So the thalamus is a region of your diencephalon. And at the center of that region is that oval called the intermediate mass. Below it is a triangle. If you use your imagination, you see this triangle. This triangle is the hypothalamus. And if you're in my lecture class, you have heard me talk about the hypothalamus quite a bit. But the hypothalamus is this region of the diencephalon that's kind of a triangle. At the bottom of the hypothalamus, this structure right here is our pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland is attached by a little stalk called the infundibulum. So you have your thalamus with your intermediate mass. Then below it, you have this triangle. That's the hypothalamus. Hanging off of the hypothalamus is the pituitary gland. And it's attached by this little stalk called the infundibulum. So that makes up a good chunk of our diencephalon. The pituitary gland is a gland that secretes a bunch of hormones that we talk about in lecture, and it's a big control center. There's another gland. If we look at the base of the thalamus, the back, see here is our cerebellum. This area right here that I have highlighted, that little bump right there is called the pineal gland or pineal gland, because it just depends on how you want to say it. I always say pineal gland. But this is the pineal gland, and the pineal gland is going to be secreting melatonin. A lot of times it's referred to as your third eye because it's very light sensitive. And light inhibits the production of this hormone called melatonin. And then the lack of light causes the pineal gland to be stimulated into making melatonin. Melatonin is that hormone that determines your day and night cycles. So humans are diurnal. We want to be up in the day and asleep at night. And the reason for that is this melatonin production. When it's dark outside, we're going to be producing melatonin. That comes from this pineal gland. All right. So that is another part of our diencephalon. Now, to finish out the list here, it says we have our midbrain. And I don't know why the list is mixed up like this, but remember the midbrain is the top of your brainstem. It's this area right here. On the back of your midbrain, you've got a structure that has two lumps. See this lumpy structure right here that I have highlighted? That lumpy structure right there is called the corpora quadrigemina. And the two lumps are called colliculi. So you've got the superior colliculi on the top, and you have the inferior colliculi on the bottom. The corpora quadrigemina is going to be responsible for your visual and auditory reflexes. So when something is flying at your face and you flinch and you blink and you move, that's a visual reflex caused by the superior colliculi of your corpora quadrigemina. Auditory reflexes are handled by the inferior colliculi. So the inferior colliculi are going to invoke a reflex like, let's say you hear a really loud noise that catches you off guard. You know, you're sitting in your living room and a bookshelf falls over in your bedroom and makes a huge crash. That causes you to flinch. that's a reflex as well. So the corpora quadrigemina is going to be involved in reflexes. So you've got this upper lump called the superior colliculi and the lower lump called the inferior colliculi. They make up the entire structure called the corpora quadrigemina. All right, so that takes care of this second part of our list here. And you can see that we only have one section left with the brain, which is going to be our cerebral spinal flow. So that's going to be our next video, and then we'll be done with the brain and we'll be able to move on into the eye and the ear. You guys have this. Keep up the good work, keep studying, and we're going to get through this together. All right, I will see you in the next video. Take care.